Hello and welcome to the Mobius Development Podcast, a game development log of a senior game development project. I'm Casey.
I'm Amanda.
And I'm Alex.
And this is some kind of fresh hell we're in, is it not?
Ooh, boy.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah. We're back. We're back in we're in the home zone.
We're
back in the home zone.
Home zones.
We're quarantined. I like I said, I just re-listened to the engineering special after 4 weeks, and I said, I was saying at the end, yeah, it could get worse, and we could all be stuck in our homes, but I'm going to be optimistic. And then the next day, everything went to hell.
Literally the next day. It's I had just come back.
The next day.
I had just come back from out of town. I was at a week-long internship. The 3 engineers recorded their podcast that same day. The next day, wow.
The next day,
we got
Bay Area locks down, Santa Cruz locks down. The following day, all of California locks down, and we're like, well, I guess we better learn how to use Zoom.
Well, we were already learning how to use Zoom. If you've been following this podcast, you'll know that we've had more than a month worth of strike shutting down our Santa Cruz campus. And so Zoom was already a feature of our lives for this team, for this year's senior project. Not as big as it is this quarter. It was mostly our meetings with our professors were over Zoom. And now it's our lectures are over Zoom, our meetings are over Zoom. We are meeting with each other over Zoom instead of in person. And it's been weird.
Yeah,
it's been weird.
We're getting by, but it's definitely weird.
Yeah,
I definitely there's you lose something when you can't meet in person. And
least of all, motivation.
Yeah, no, because what I found is it's the 4 or 5 hour jam times that we would do when everyone was in person. I wouldn't feel tired after that, but we do it on Zoom, and I'm like, oh god. And I'm drifting away because when you're in a room with a bunch of other people, you have the ambient noise of stuff going on. When you're on Zoom, you have to actively listen to everything that's going on, and it takes a lot more of your brain to do.
Yeah, I think even harder than that is my math senior seminar doesn't have lecture component at all, so I have never heard my professor's voice. I don't even know if they're a boy or a girl. But they
know nothing.
Exist, and they are silently judging us from the behind the curtain. And then
behind the curtain of math.
Behind the curtain,
so it's the
math.
Scary math curtain.
And then my other lectures are pre-recorded, which is very difficult to get into because it's just the same as watching a YouTube video.
But for 2 hours.
Especially if you don't care about the subject of the YouTube video like you do.
So that's been the recap of the last month, basically, since that engineering episode was recorded a month ago.
Yeah, pretty much exactly a month ago.
Yeah. We had finals week and spring break, and then the last 2 weeks we've been back at spring quarter, actively attempting to be productive amidst this literal global pandemic. There were a few highlights. We did have some good times gaming together as a team. We had played some real fun tabletop simulator. I think it was the 3 of us plus Paula, and Christy came in for a little while. And that was really fun because I got to win.
You got to. Well, no. What is it you keep saying? Amanda is Alex. She keeps sharking us.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll come in, we'll teach her how to play a game, and she says she has no idea how to play, and then she'll win out of nowhere.
Listen, that's not what happened with poker, though. With poker,
that's not
I
what
got
happened
one
with
good
poker.
hand and got overconfident. And
Right.
then I lost really hard.
What happened with the Munchkin game is we all ended up focusing on each other, and then you just snuck up behind us and won.
I had a lot of really good cards that needed to be played in specific scenarios, so I was just waiting the whole game for those scenarios to come up, and then when they did, I won, and it was great.
Yep, and then they all came up, and then you won.
I fully anticipated with the poker game it going exactly how it goes when I try to play pool, which is it's oh, I know all of the strategies because my grandpa taught them, but I have 0 execution.
Yeah. Well, didn't Amanda shark us in a game of pool too?
No, we got sharked by
no,
y'all
you
in.
took. No, yes, you're right. That was what happened in the regular game. What happened in the cutthroat game?
In the cutthroat game.
That was the one where you brutally wiped out the entire leadership team and took over. or attempted to, and
And
then
then Yala
you failed and I did it.
Sniped.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
don't
put
know,
myself in a
Alex, I
terrible
think.
position just so that I could
and
flex
you
and
lost,
knock
and
out
I was the
you
only
and
one
Amanda.
Yeah, but you failed to get me, and then I was the only one left.
See, the time that I was a pool shark was the first time that Alex taught me how to play pool. My friend Kate was in town. My friend from, like, middle school, high school, like, back home, came up to Santa Cruz, and the three of us played pool. Alex taught us how to play pool, and I was like, I win. And then never
so
again.
we're learning that you shark games by winning the first game you ever play,
And then never
and
again.
then never again.
So never
So
play
what
Munchkin
we've
with me
learned is-
again, because I'm never going to win
No.
again, and I don't want to lose.
Yeah.
Let's see if you can
Okay.
beat me at Risk.
I've still never played Risks, though.
No, we'll do that after this.
Mhm.
We'll play some Risk.
That'd be pretty good.
And we'll just see. We'll see if Paula's not busy. Because Paula just put up that she put up that video in the Discord at like 1 a.m. that looked super
She
good.
might be asleep, y'all.
Yeah, like man, well, it's been 10 hours since then.
What other fun things happened during quarantine so far that we can talk about?
Animal Crossing came out.
Yeah, there was lots of fruit exchange.
A lot of fruit exchange. A lot of weird use of the custom textures.
Yes, yeah, I haven't participated in that, but I've enjoyed the
You
the
haven't
images.
seen. Have you seen the room in Christy's house yet?
I have.
Okay,
It's
right, because we shared pictures
Yeah.
of it. It's something.
It's something. We added a quarantine gaming channel to our Discord.
Oh, I tried to stream some artwork and learned that my internet is absolutely awful and that I don't got any ups. I cannot stream nothing.
Yeah,
Even
no
if
ups.
it is literally all I have running on my computer is Discord and my drawing program, which is
Yeah.
not Photoshop, mind you. It's not that hefty. It's Paint Tool SAI.
You gotta run like a speed test and send it to me because you've got like satellite internet levels of ups.
Yeah, I'll do that when I
Yeah,
when I
'cause-
get a chance.
yeah. Tad gave a link to a free one that'll do it in one of the surveys that he put out.
I think I did it for that, but I don't remember what the numbers were.
Yeah. I did it on my old laptop that's sitting over here, waiting to be sent back to Apple.
Yeah.
And my ups and downs were terrible. I haven't done it on the new one to see how much better they are.
That's the biggest encouragement because me and Amanda are still in our apartments in Santa Cruz, whereas a lot of people have gone home. The biggest encouragement for probably the both of us to go home is that we have good internet at home.
Yeah.
And it's not being shared with,
Yeah.
5, 6, 7 other housemates.
Yeah, because my internet here is good, but it's also unstable. Like if someone upstairs is like, I'm gonna download something, I'm like,
Yep. It's gone.
Mhm.
It's over. It's over for you. I'm living in the magical world of pretty good internet.
It's a pretty good world.
There's a Price is Right game too.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
true, yeah, that was
Certain
pretty
highlights
good.
from that one we want to
Yeah.
share with the
We
world.
did play Price is Right. Kelly ran that game. We all brought in some random objects from the internet and had to guess what they were priced at. It was very disorganized, but it was fun that way. So
Yeah.
It's true.
It was like because I'm trying to remember, it was the chicken leash and
I remember the cat butt coaster. That's what I brought.
the
Yeah.
cat butt coaster.
A fun
Yeah.
key.
Oh yes, the funky. I
Mhm.
found the funky.
A lot of good
Throwbacks
items.
to 20 years ago in 2001.
Yeah.
So we're finding ways to entertain ourselves and stay connected.
Mhm.
Discord is a big help for that, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
there's a
Mobius
Minecraft
Minecraft
server
server
now.
is still it's still up and running. I have a second one now because I tried to renew my subscription and accidentally bought a new subscription, and so now I have 2 Mobius realms.
Well, great.
Right?
I'm not going to put in any work on the other one.
No, I'm thinking about
I'm
giving
working.
it to my high school friends or something.
Yeah, I've got another one running with my D&D party. We have one. I don't put as much effort into it because I'm too busy building sprawling catacombs underneath everything that you guys have built.
I believe it.
My favorite thing about the Mobius Minecraft realm is that Alex got me a horse and I named him Roy Mustang.
Yeah.
That's for all those weebs out there.
For all those weebs out there.
That's because I'm a weeb.
I feel like an FMA reference isn't
It's true.
isn't
It's
like super
Pretty
weeby.
high level pop
Okay, well,
of the weeb spectrum.
my first instinct was to name him Kaito Kid, and then I said, no, I gotta name him after a horse because Alex did that
Okay.
too. So,
All right.
what did I'm blanking.
Oh, I named mine BoJack Horseman because
Yeah.
he has the white diamond on his face.
So Zoom.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've steadily understood how to use it more. Not that I understand how to use it great. I was trying to screen share something to my journal members because I also work on a journal on campus. We had a call last Friday. I was trying to screen share and I just messed things up royally. And you don't think that's possible until you're sitting there with an iPad open on Zoom and a laptop open on Zoom, attempting to have one muted and the other not muted, and then you get some awful feedback and you're like, this is over. I'm not gonna screen share. I'm just shutting down my laptop. It's okay. So Zoom.
Screen share for Zoom on the iPad is a little weird. I've tried it and I don't love it.
I've not gotten it to work.
Like, because there's a weird thing you can do. I'll show you how to do it.
Sweet.
After
I'd
this.
appreciate it. Would make my life easier.
Yeah.
172. Yeah. So the first lecture was obviously a week ago. 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. And it's not. I mean, it is recorded, but it's also done synchronously. So live on Zoom with 4 professors, a slide deck, and over 100 students.
4 professors, 3 of whom are fucking around in chat.
Yeah. Well, any one given professor is talking.
Yeah.
And it's kind of wild. The first one was really hard for me because my internet kept dropping me from the Zoom call, and then I was really frustrated. But the second one was better. I was able to watch it,
That is an improvement.
But yeah, I'm personally not a fan of being in such a big class and having the chat going all the time. Maybe it's just because I'm not someone who's on Twitch a lot, but I found it distracting.
Look at the chat. I wait for the chat to be curated by the professor. Like if there's something important in the chat, usually, or something that keeps getting repeated, usually the professor will shout it out. So I just don't even look at the chat.
Yeah, I ignore that. Well, I like what Michael does in the interactive narrative course is he has a Slack instead that runs as a chat so that he can save the chat so people spam in it less because it's saved. And the other one, I'll look in it on occasion because I'm one of those people that likes spamming in Twitch chat because I think it's kind of funny. But it's usually if there's something in chat worth looking at, it'll be pointed out. And then otherwise I'll pan over to it every 10, 15 minutes because there's the big orange blinking light on the bottom of my Zoom call and I want it to go away.
Yeah. Yeah. People, though, such as Casey, like to get creative with Zoom backgrounds.
It's true, yeah.
I mean, people can only look at all the tchotchkes and posters I have hanging behind me in my bedroom for so long. I need to change it up.
It's true.
People are using it for branding. They've got their games logos behind them.
Yes, we finally have a games logo that we can brand with.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, I mean we've had the name of the game logo that Jay made for a while.
Yeah,
but we didn't
it just
have,
never had a solid background.
Yeah, I mean I think that logo probably works if probably with just a little bit more refinement.
Yeah,
and then a better background that's not an old asset that we're not using anymore.
Yeah, that asset.
I definitely didn't expect it to be a long-term logo with the background that I just cropped and blurred.
I mean, a lot of things that you've made for this game you didn't expect to be long-term, and then they were around for a long time.
Ain't that just the name of the game?
Yep.
Name of the game
those
is Mobius.
Constantly misspelled. No, fuck.
Jokes.
Like those constantly always misspelled tutorial slides that
right. I'm hoping by
who's
the
responsible
time...
for making the new ones? Is that Paula?
That's Paula.
Okay.
I can also get in on that if need be.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to have it by the next TA meeting.
Yeah.
We have
probably a good call.
We continue to have our weekly TA meetings, but we have a different TA now. So we have to onboard them onto what is our game? What have we been doing?
Which is a little rough. That's why I was hoping we'd get Max.
Yeah.
Because Max has played it and knew a little bit about it from way back in Block 2. Back when times were simpler and you could go onto campus and meet with a TA in a room that was reserved for you.
We did get Tad, though, as our second instructor, which is, if you remember 2 episodes ago, we were talking about the playtest feedback. Tad played our game, and he was one of the people that sat down with somebody that they knew and played through the whole game as it existed at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, so there's a little less onboarding we'll have to do there, because there is some professor rollover, because the 2 CM professors that we had last quarter are gone now. Michael and Eddie are doing their own things again. And Tad and Elin, I think is how you pronounce her name, are back.
yeah.
Are here. They're here. They're new. They're not back.
Here
They
for
were
the
never
first
here.
time.
Well,
Here
Tad
for the
has
first
been
time.
around,
Yes.
Tad's been around.
but he hasn't
Elin
been
is
our professor.
brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely exciting. I'm excited to get to work with Tad this quarter. And
some fresh eyes.
We still have Marcelo as our art side professor, which is nice because we don't have to do any onboarding.
We still somehow managed to try and schedule a meeting in the week we don't have to meet with him, and then have those weeks line up anyway.
So
that we meet with him 2 days in a row.
Back to back Marcelo meetings, but it's useful because you can only ever schedule like 20 or 30 minutes. And if you need an hour's worth of conversation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we've stopped getting lucky that whoever booked time after Marcelo stopped showing up, so we got full hour.
Yeah.
That happened because we were in person at his office, and people just don't like to show up in person. But now that we're on Zoom, people will show up. It's like, okay.
Well, it's because they don't have to. All they have to do is they have to tab out of whatever game they're playing and then join the call.
Right.
That's it.
Or if you have dual monitors, you continue playing your game, but you
people can't go outside anymore. People aren't going hiking anymore. If people are working out, they're doing fucking Zumba classes in front of their laptop with the webcam off.
Out.
Zoom
or
classes.
Zumba.
Yeah.
No, I have not done a
they're-
Zumba class, but I have done Zoom
They're just doing
workout
They're in
classes.
crunches, squats. They're doing wall sits in the corner of their bedroom. Even though they hate them.
Do a whole lot of bicycles.
Yeah.
They're moving out of their apartments and lifting things and hurting themselves because they haven't lifted things in a long
You
time.
gotta lift with your legs.
That's what
I think
happened to
that
me.
might be too late for that advice.
It's too late now. Yeah, I already hurt my arm.
Oh, you already are. What about lifting with your legs?
Lift with your...
I was lifting with my legs, but I still hurt. You still have to lift with a little bit with your
You
arms.
still have to lift with your
Your
rest
arms
of
still
your
have
body.
to hold the thing. You could still hurt yourself.
I find fault with that logic. I think you
That
could do it
crappy
all with your legs.
That crappy couch is very heavy. It's because it's old and it's heavy, and we want to throw it away, but we also don't want to take it out of the truck because it's old and heavy.
Yeah.
So
in terms of deliverables for this quarter, it's interesting because I expected it to be the same structure as it was last quarter, which was we have a deliverable in the middle, kind of like a midterm, and then we have a deliverable at the end, which is kind of like our final, which would be, in this case, be this game is done and we're doing the showcase.
yeah.
But instead we have sort of like an asynchronous, like weekly deadline.
Deliverable. Well, they did say there was like, I remember Max I think said in Discord there is a middle deliverable and an end deliverable still, but they're not as like structured as the vertical and the playable were.
Oh, I see.
Because a lot of it, because we're not adding features anymore. It's just adding polish, and I believe in our case and in the case of a couple of other games, we're still adding content, but we're not adding features.
Yeah.
That question was still never officially answered in lecture of our features and content. Do you when you say features, do you also mean content? My answer would be no, because I think all Terry wants to do is make more Kangarumble maps. And if he can't do that, I don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah. Our TA was concerned, our new TA, when we talked to them this week, was concerned about this difference for our game. And we were like, well, we've got all of the functionality.
Yeah, all of the features are in. You can. It's just content. It's just adding more assets, and
yeah, I think this
we're
will
not
be
trying.
the core of the conversation we have with Tad on Thursday.
Yeah,
Will be, is what we're doing reasonable? Should we be focusing on polishing the stuff that we have more?
Yeah.
I think that we
The
also
thing is, 'cause
need to have a very serious conversation about scoping down. Not because this would have been an unachievable goal, but because as the art director, it's like all but one person and myself on the art team have been missing the last 2 weeks of art deadlines, and I'm afraid it's because of, mental health, lack of motivation, the pandemic. So that's a conversation I'll be having with the art team this week. But I'm feeling like, for the sake of like getting something done in a reasonable way because of the pandemic that we're gonna have to start rethinking like our goals in terms of like what things we are going
in terms
to
of content. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think
be creating.
yeah, in terms of features, because if I'm correct, all the puzzles exist now. They just need to be polished, and all of the features exist now. They just need to be polished, and the real thing that would be cause for scoping down would be art.
Yeah, and I think that
If
is
we
a
can't get
fair
assets in time.
thing, because every puzzle creates a lot of art that needs to be done, especially the puzzles for Loop 2 that we have planned. I think create a lot of art.
Definitely. What I personally think is that in a scoping down discussion, it just becomes let's set goals for a complete experience by the end of 172, and then anything that we remove from that complete experience, we go, when 172 is over, the pandemic will not be over. We still won't be able to leave our houses. We'll work on that all after the deadline and add it post what we're showing the people at the showcase.
Yeah, we could talk about this more at the end of the podcast, but I do think we might need to refine what we consider to be a complete experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we could talk about that more at the end. And
yeah, I have some ideas that we can discuss for that, so I'm down to have that discussion.
I also have some ideas of places where we could like
condense.
But yeah, so we have a prototype up on itch, which hopefully will be updated soon. Currently, it's our vertical playtest, which we talked about a while back, 1.5 months ago. We talked
like
about
a month and a half ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that build is up on itch.io right now and can be played by anyone.
Yeah, and is it that instance on itch that will be updated as we go, or will there be a new version completely posted? Like, so sorry, the itch link that we put up, will that be updated? That specific link?
Oh, the link will always be the same. So if you follow the link, it might not be the same as what we're discussing right now, but it will be the most up-to-date version. And there will be a link. I think
we can probably put legacy tabs on the itch too.
That's what I was planning. Yeah. Right now we're on alpha version 1.4. So
I think we could probably say beta now.
You think we could say beta?
I think 171
now
is
that
alpha,
it's published,
172
I guess
beta.
it is beta.
It's public now, so I guess we should call it a beta.
So our next build will be beta 1.0.
we have a broader array of QA testers.
Yes. Yeah.
So we can call it beta in that front too.
I
don't like the terms alpha and beta because they mean something different for every game that says they're in alpha or beta. Because if you look at like the Call of Duty betas are like, here you get to play one map as like a demo. It's just a demo.
Yeah.
Don't call it a beta, it's a demo.
I'd also be happy with it just being, we're currently in Mobius version 1.4, and then we would do or 0.4 to take the Mojang approach.
Well, it's not officially we're not officially released yet. We're not. It's not a release candidate. It's not a release build. So we're not in a whole numbered release yet.
Yeah.
I think what we probably want to look at is that we'll have a 1.0 build that will be done by 172, and then a 2.0 build where it's everything that we wanted, and then we release it on the App Store, and then maybe we have a chat about making it 99 cents.
So that 1.0 build will be released at the 172 showcase, which is
live on Twitch.
Yeah, it's being transitioned to online for the sake of everyone's safety. In the past, you would get 2 days showcasing in a building called Digital Arts Research Center, which is this 3-story building on the UC Santa Cruz campus. It's got a lot of big rooms, a lot of small rooms. You'd get, a table, you'd set up your setup, you'd put up a big banner, and the public and people from the industry would come in and play your games. Professors would come play your games. Students would come play your games.
People that hire you for jobs would come play your games.
Yes, the
which is
industry.
the big thing.
Yeah.
That was, I think, the concern for people about it not happening was, well, I need people that will give me a job to see what I've done.
My main question about that is I don't know what the actual success rate is in the past several years of having this showcase. It's called the Sammy Showcase. I don't know how many people actually got hired because of it. It sounded, from the way that professors spoke about it, like a relatively low actual number. So...
I believe that's correct, because I think it's both them, because it's them seeing it, them liking it, and you reaching out to them for a position.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very rare that they'll reach out to you.
Yeah.
I
I think it's
the biggest thing for me was when we had the talk quite a while back from Squish, from the makers of Squish, and they talked about how their game was like very well received, and they were able to go to E3 and show it off at E3 and do a lot of networking. But they still
haven't
didn't
gotten anywhere.
Yeah, they still didn't lead them directly into work in the industry. So it's like,
I think it's a swamped industry.
Yeah.
That's I think the core problem is it's there's a lot of talented developers out there that want the work.
yeah,
So it's competitive. So I think the fault can probably be found in you graduate, you finish your game, maybe it's well received, maybe you go to E3, maybe you don't, but then you start looking for work, but you don't maintain your portfolio while you're doing that. So you're taking a ton of hours working retail and not making any other games in the interim, so your portfolio doesn't get bigger over those 6 months. So I think if you continue to work on it and you let your portfolio get bigger, maybe with some crap, maybe with something good,
yeah,
then that's how you play it.
I think that
Because I think it's all about volume.
I think volume, but also quality is important.
Yeah.
Like I think you gotta have the right the right balance.
You gotta have the right stuff.
yeah. And it's not even quality of content; it's quality of experience. So it's like 170. Once the 170 series is a very high value on our portfolios because it's a very long project. It's a large team project, which is what most projects in the industry are going to be. And
It's
and
what
it was
all
a
projects in
completed
the industry are going to be.
project. At
Like
least that's
the
hope.
only time you hear about one-man teams is in indie.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think the biggest thing that the Sammy Showcase that I will miss is more on a personal level, like sort of the send-off that it provides. Like it feels like that's a really good sort of bookend to our college experience and to our experience in these game majors as a whole. Like it's really like, here is what we did this year, and we get to see what everyone else did this year. So I think
we'll still kind of get to do that, but it won't feel the same.
Yeah.
And like, because the university, like I think 2 days ago, put out that how do you want to do commencement email, and it was like, rank these things by order of importance, and I was like, okay, I don't care about 5 of these things, but I want to do it with friends that are not in the same college as me. I want some kind of like program celebration, and because I don't care if I don't walk. Like honestly, that's not the thing that mattered to me.
Same.
I'm not a first generation college student. There's nothing like, there's no like family milestone for me. It's just, oh look, he did it.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not even the first one in my generation in my family to do it. I'm third.
My mom
So
like eked it out. No one in my like family, no matter how far you go back, has ever had a college degree, but my mom like just barely eked it out and graduated like my freshman year of college.
I thought she graduated.
Oh, to beat you?
Yeah, I thought she graduated.
Was it a competitive
college
thing?
when you graduated high school?
She did, but
Yeah.
she did more classes.
was that eking it out so that you wouldn't get to be the first? Because I would have a lot of respect for your mom if that was the reason why.
If that was the goal, she succeeded.
Because I feel like, that sounds like something my mom would do, but then not tell me. But then if I asked her about it, she'd say yes.
Yeah, that was like, well, she'd been doing it for a very long time. Like she wasn't on a 4-year plan because she was doing like night school. So it's like she's been doing this for like years and years, and just so happens that right when I start college, it's like bam, beat you to it.
Bam, you don't get to be the first.
What's that? You wanted
You get to
first
be
generation
second.
scholarships? Don't worry about that.
Nope, not anymore. Damn it, I ruined it.
Yeah, for me,
No, but
walking would have been more for my grandparents than anything, and the chance to have my parents and my brother in Santa Cruz and be like, look at the trees, look at the ocean. It's like, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
You don't
like-
you don't have trees and oceans in the desert.
No.
It's true, yeah.
But it's like,
You have dirt and rocks.
we'll probably still do that kind of like family celebration. It just won't involve walking and a fancy hat, which I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, I think it all depends on what the university comes up with, because I was a fan of both of their ideas that weren't virtual, because virtual is a recipe for tabbing out until you're close to your name, tabbing back in, and then tabbing out again. Maybe you're wearing the hat.
Yeah, it'd be
But,
fun,
like-
but it wouldn't be like an event.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know.
like I'd have to drive back either way, and whether I drive back is entirely dependent on who else is driving back, because I get to walk, but I don't want to drive all the way up, walk, go to a restaurant that may or may not be open because I don't know if it'll survive the pandemic, and then go home. That's boring. I want to go up, walk, go to a bar that I actually know isn't open. It already closed because of the pandemic. Rest in peace, 99 bottles.
Yeah.
We're almost at 30 years.
I know.
But then go with my buddies and get absolutely tanked because my plan would be I get an Airbnb that holds like 15 people. We get the whole team there, and I finally get to open that bottle of tequila.
That bottle of tequila is gonna wait a while.
It's true,
I'm
but it's
not
tequila,
opening it.
so
I'm
it's not
waiting.
Nothing's gonna happen.
Nothing's gonna happen to it, and really it means nothing because it's 12. It was a $12 bottle, but at this point, like
It
it's
has
for the
symbolic
principle thing
value.
that I'm not opening this bottle until I can get some semblance of the whole team in the same room so I can open the bottle. Make a big deal out of it, and then Paula can shoot it straight because she's a weirdo, and the rest of us can have margaritas,
Yeah, I believe it.
and then Alex can have his rum and coke.
It's true. It's true.
I can't wait for a margarita.
Months from now.
I was
Literal
gonna,
months
I
from
was
now.
gonna have a margarita, so it's Passover. We were gonna go visit my family in Texas, and they got
Nope.
good margaritas in Texas, and it's
They
like,
do.
well, never mind. That's okay. I'll have a Texan margarita next year.
Next year, yeah. I can make my own Passover brisket.
Yeah, I didn't get to do anything
My
for
own house.
Passover. I was like, well, I literally don't have any. I have some Shabbat can. No, I don't even have Shabbat can. I have some Hanukkah candles. It's like, this is not Passover.
Yeah. Today, the day we're recording this is my religious observed holiday of choice, even though I'm not that religious. But Easter is the day that I pick because there's more chocolate and whatnot.
Listen,
But even
you
that's-
can eat Easter chocolate while being a Jew, and that's what I do.
That's true, yeah. Well, even that's changing because we've opted to self quarantine from my grandmother until long enough post us moving me out. So we aren't even celebrating it today. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
We boiled 20 eggs for unrelated reasons.
That's fine. Unrelated reasons, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the agnostics' Easter is just boiling eggs.
Yeah.
Maybe Bunny Day will finally end and I won't have to fish up water eggs
Yeah,
anymore.
That's pretty good. I'm totally fine with not getting the Bunny Day wand.
Yeah. I don't want any of that. I just want to catch my fish and catch my bugs and finish my museum within the year.
I believe
That's
in
all I
you,
want.
Casey.
I can do it.
But now, are we ready to talk about team logistics?
Team.
And
Yes.
remember the fact that this is a podcast with a specific topic.
Yes, absolutely. That's the problem with the home zone is we go on much more
It
tangents.
feels so easy
let's-
to just chat.
It is. Yeah.
You're doing it right now.
We can just chat after the podcast. Let's get team logistics
Yeah.
ironed
Also,
away.
I can cut any of the really rambly
I know,
bits.
if you find a good place to cut some of the rambly bits, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Bloopers.
It's because
We
We're
can
at,
put together a
bloopers,
whole
put 'em at the end.
episode of bloopers.
Yeah, we're at around 40 minutes right now, so I think we're in a good
Yeah.
spot in terms
Speaking
of
of bloopers, though, my line has me fucking up the intro. So start the blooper reel with me screwing up the intro and then being upset about
I
it.
think if we do bloopers,
But all right,
we
let's,
gotta do it at the very end
Yeah,
of
Yeah.
all the episodes.
Let's-
But yeah,
yeah.
so we had some role shuffling.
we did.
Yeah. Well, do we want to? Because I have listed down that we've of the relative change of the puzzle structure. Because I remember we had initially been way back at the beginning it was 3 puzzles in loop 1, 3 puzzles in loop 2, 3 puzzles in loop 3. That became 2 puzzles in loop 1, 3, 3, and now it's become 2, 2, 2,
Yeah.
which I think is the most reasonable that we have. Because now they all exist. There's 6 of them. 2 of them are done. 2 of them are are implemented.
2 of them will be done
Are relatively
when they
implemented.
have art assets.
And will be done when they have art assets, and then 2 are the programming tasks for the next couple weeks before we go full into juice.
Yes.
But yes, I do think the new thing is to go into some team reshuffling, because we are now a team of 9. We are no longer a team of 10.
It's true.
We have lost a member to the QA team for technical reasons, and I think just technical reasons mostly. I don't know if it has anything to do with.
Yeah.
I don't think it. Yeah, is. It might be a little related to the conflicts that we've talked about prior, but I don't. I think primarily having the pandemic, having to move back home where they have less access to the technology that they need, and just mental health stuff too, is just led to them going, I cannot contribute to this in a way that would feel, I can't think of the right word, but they felt they couldn't contribute wholly to the project in the situation they were in, so they moved to the QA team, which is a new team that was developed this quarter for people whose teams fell apart or dissolved or chose to stop working, and who couldn't get onto another one.
And I know from my conversations with them that it just wasn't a project that they were very passionate about from the beginning anyway. So it's not like they're giving up a lot.
They joined us a little late anyway.
Yeah.
I wasn't, see, when they joined us a little bit late, it was, I got the feeling that they had come up against a lack of other options. I don't know if that was totally true.
I think that was kind of the vibe the whole time, I think, because I remember them saying during the pitching process that, like, they wanted to work with us, just not on this project.
So this is a person that was with us from the prototype. And then when we were searching for team members, they said, I'm going to go do something else. It was like everything with this person so far has been relatively, like, peaceful and accepted from both sides of the equation. Like, this hasn't been big dramatic. But they decided that they were going to go interview for other teams and, like, find a project they were more interested in. We said, okay, that's all right, have fun.
Great.
We'll
go for it.
Look forward to what you work on. But then really
I don't understand why you're not as
minute,
enthusiastic as the rest of us, but okay.
Well, I don't want to talk too much on their behalf, but I believe the primary concern is that their focus as a designer is on systems design, and our game doesn't contain a lot of interleaved systems because it's not a real-time game. And that, so they just never felt like there was a lot of work for them to do that was in their area of expertise, which I think is a pretty fair criticism.
But just to finish my thoughts, so they came to interview and join our team, like, really last minute, like, right up against the deadline, which is what gave me the impression that this was kind of their fallback option. And
we were desperate for blood still. So
we were at that stage where we were
willing
worried
to take it, because
we
were
would get cut.
in the pitching process. We were always a little, and that was before, like, they said no one's getting cut, and then we were like, oh, we're a big team now.
So fast forward to the pandemic and people moving home, and this person specifically losing access to campus technology. It was a very, like, we all agreed that like when they suggested maybe I should move to the QA team, and we said that's okay. There was no big drama about it, which I think is the best way for someone to come and go from a team, honestly, is for everyone to agree that it is what makes sense for that person's skill set and access to technology and mental health. Don't want
to burn those bridges.
No, we like, they're still on our Discord. They're still memeing with us.
Yes, they have a QA role. They haven't shared very many memes recently. I think they're giving all their memes to the QA Discord now. I'm feeling a little left out. I mean, they weren't the biggest meme contributors to the meme channel, but there were still some.
But I think that was our biggest role shuffle. I think our second biggest role shuffle is Casey's role.
It's true.
Yeah, so that change came from what one of our team members calls an ass o'clock revelation, because they happen between the hours of, like, midnight and 4 or 5 in the morning, even though this one happened at, like, 11:30, of just going that same deal, mental health, change of position, everything going remote, that not that they would leave, but that their position in a leadership role within the narrative team was something that, if it stayed on their plate, would be too stressful and, like, too much for them to deal with with everything else going on in the fact that the world is exploding. So I got this DM at like 11:30 at night, and I was like, all right, I suppose, let me think about who's on the narrative team first off. And then I went, okay, so the members of the narrative team include the puzzle lead, the art lead, you, and me, the engineering lead in documentation only, because the engineering team is this weird nebulous group where everyone is simultaneously in charge and not in charge all at the same time, which I think is working really well.
I think it works.
But I was
it's
like,
just a consequence of not having anyone on the engineering team who isn't also fulfilling another role.
yeah, who like would be able, well, because all the lead roles in most of the other teams aside from are usually just setting when meetings happen and making sure that tasks are distributed correctly. And as engineers, we were kind of doing that collectively, so we didn't have any like, it wasn't like one of us saying we're meeting now, these are your tasks, go do them.
Yeah.
It was always, when can you guys meet? We're meeting now, here's all of our tasks, how do we want to distribute them equitably?
Yeah.
And then it was all collective.
But I think this is a good change because, like, I don't know, I felt for a long time, like from the beginning, that it wasn't a role that they wanted. It was a role that we sort of gave to them.
Well,
and
I
it was
specifically remember asking, is this a role that you would be okay with taking? Because I, as the art lead, cannot take on a secondary lead role, even though this is like a team that I'm interested in. Because there was no one else that expressed that they have a big interest in narrative. They were all like,
yeah,
I want to work on narrative a little bit.
Yeah.
So since...
I remember specifically in the emails that were exchanged in hiring that we didn't mention narrative in the email that we sent to her saying, congratulations, you win. And the reply that I got in the middle of the night, which I didn't realize was going to be a trend, but it is, was that, is it still an option for me to do narrative work? And I was just like, okay, I know how I would respond to her now, but at the time I was like, yes, you can do that. That's a very feasible option. Now it would be, fuck yeah, you can. Let's go for it. But so I sent that back, and then at like 3 a.m, I'm like, I got another email, I was like, I'm in. So I'm like, great. And then we gave her the lead role at the time, and that seemed to work out fine until now, where it's that role is mine now. And all that's changed is, instead of me dropping into the narrative meetings every once in a while, I go to all of them and I say when they are, and I run the Zoom call, and I make sure tasks are assigned at the end of the meeting. But otherwise it doesn't feel like a whole lot has changed from the way that those meetings are run, because we try in every meeting to do things equitably. And the lead's responsibility is usually only to deal with the logistics of task work, not be the end all be all king decision maker until like there's a, I guess like they get 2 votes as a tiebreaker or something, but that's hardly ever happened.
Yeah, I do think like it's necessary on a small team to make those kinds of decisions. Like there's a finite number of people and there's a finite number of roles, and we need to assign these roles. And some people are going to get roles that they don't necessarily want. And like it's necessary, but I think there is a big difference in motivation between like, this is the role that I chose and what I want to be doing, and like, there's no one else to do this role. Will you do it? And saying yes. It's like, that's not a choice. It's like, the team needs you. Will you rise to the occasion? And it's like, yes. And we greatly appreciated that for the time that she was
something that they were, it was something that they could do.
But
and now that it's something that they're like, I can't do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm like, all right, I as a person, my therapist has told me this, cope with stressful situations by taking on more work. Some people cope with stressful situations by taking on less work. So when I got this is a little much for me right now, I don't want to do it, like, ooh, the world is a little much for me right now. This means I get more work, so I'll do it.
I think
and that's part of why I accepted it.
Even though back when this team formed and I said to our previous narrative lead, will you please take on this role? Are you okay with doing that? And she said yes. In my brain, it was never like, like, it was like, that's a huge help to me and I really appreciate it. But in my brain, like, she could have always said no, and then I would have done it, you know? Like, that's, like, it wouldn't have been good.
Knowing that
but
yourself
it's
is
like,
very different from the other person that you're talking to knowing that.
yes,
like,
I know, but also
in a broader
I
sense
didn't,
in terms of if this is advice for future teams, you need to recognize when someone is choosing their own role versus someone is taking on a role because
when you're
it's
asking
needed.
someone to do it.
But the thing is that
especially
the thing is, though, even though I had that mindset, I was relieved when she said yes, because I didn't want to take on 2 leadership roles. I also have a leadership role in a magazine on campus, and I have 2 senior projects. Like, I'm a double major. So looking at my workload, I said I can do it. I am a double major with creative writing, and I think I have a grasp on, like, this stuff as well as the art stuff that I am taking on the lead role for, but I didn't want to. So it's like, for me, it's like, I don't know. I guess I didn't, I don't know.
It's okay. It was 2.5 months ago. I just thought it was an interesting example for...
It is, yes.
If you're taking our stories as advice, it's an interesting,
which is part of the point
anecdote.
of this podcast. So. Which is
Yeah.
why I'm
As
not
we said at the
holding back
beginning-
on, like, I'm not trying to look prettier here.
Which, as we said at the beginning, we do hope for it to be advice, but we also said at the beginning, how different could our experience possibly be from anyone else before us or after us?
Yeah.
And apparently the universe, we didn't knock on wood when we said that, and the universe said, well, let me show you what I have in store for you. And things changed.
It's true.
But I think the other big point to make with that decision too is when we asked them to do that, we didn't know them as well as we know them now.
Yeah.
So I think now I wouldn't have asked them to do it, because I know them now, and I know that they would have said yes to be polite, but they wouldn't have really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Which is, it seems exactly what happened. But now I think
this is
now
definitely
they can say no
like
when we ask them to do things.
A retrospective sort of opinion coming from me, of like looking back at these conversations and being like, I can see how this happened, and like, but at the time I wasn't like, oh wait, let's have a conversation about what people want to be doing.
Yeah. But again, in terms of advice, if you've made it this far and you're still hiring people, the conversation to have when you're assigning roles is make sure people are doing, try to the best of your ability to make sure that people are filling the roles they want to fill, and then not filling roles that you want them to fill that you think are connected to the roles that they want to do.
Yeah, because you gotta really like dive into the specific responsibilities of those roles and what specific responsibilities those people want to satisfy. Because the roles are just like buckets that we use to assign responsibilities. But if you're in a small enough team and you have a close knit enough like network, you could really like dive in to these like little nitpicky responsibilities and like make sure everybody's doing stuff that they, if not like want to do, feel comfortable doing.
Yeah, because I think that like initially when we were assigning lead roles, we had interpreted them as being kind of more important than a lot of them ended up being. If at the time we had known that a lot of our lead roles would just be like, you're the one that's handling scheduling and assigning tasks and just kind of getting the meeting started, but not like running it from on high, then that would have been a role where I'm like, at the beginning, I'm like, oh, I could probably take that on because I don't need to be the most experienced person from a narrative standpoint. I just have to be willing to do the logistical work.
Yeah, like we didn't have a clear enough understanding of what the responsibilities were that we were assigning when we called people leads.
I think that there's also, between each team on the team, a very different thing expected from the lead. So if you take the narrative lead position, for example, what we've been talking about for Casey's perspective, you know, it's a lot of getting the meeting started, sort of here's what this meeting is about, and like here's when the meeting is. That is extremely different from like our puzzle leads role, which is much more involved in like getting like decisions to happen, as far as I can tell. And even from the art lead role, my role is a lot of like attempting to balance like what is on people's plates, which is something that I'm currently really worried about, and I'm gonna get that conversation going at our next art meeting tomorrow. like making sure that people have enough on their plate and not too much on their plate, and deadlines to turn that art in.
Yeah.
And also are doing art that they want to be doing. Like last quarter there was a lot of things that needed concepts going on, and we have a couple people that were like, I'm not comfortable or good at doing concept art and getting those ideas going. I want there to be a concept that I can like then work from. We didn't have a lot of that last quarter, and so
we have a lot of that now.
We have a lot of it now, and so it's I think each lead role has turned out to be extremely specific.
Yeah.
Actually, and yeah,
there's some that are as
we didn't know that.
There's an interesting scaling of roles from engineering lead, which exists on paper only, to art director, art lead, which is very involved. And then it goes puzzle, then narrative, which exists on paper and has like 4 extra responsibilities and a little bit of plate juggling for narrative assets, but they've never been... Narrative assets are significantly... They're high impact, but there are not nearly as many of them. So, like, we have most of them listed out. I think there are less than 10 in the whole game.
I think there's about 12?
Because
if you take there's 6 narrative beats, and then we split them between 2 players.
Yeah. Well, that was my point, is that we're creating... One narrative asset is then split between 2 players. So we're not creating like 12 independent things. We're creating 6 independent things and then deciding collectively how do we distribute them amongst 2 people. So the asset count is low. The group kind of brainstorming and breakpoint count is relatively high. So that's all stuff you can do in a meeting where the lead mostly just has to like keep things moving, and then otherwise I like to run meetings freeform. I don't like to be on high and be like, we're gonna do this, then we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna say this is one I want to cover. We're gonna go at the pace of the group, and just kind of, if we don't get through everything, we don't get through everything. If we diverge onto something that's off topic, it's my job to pull back. But if we diverge onto something that is more important, then we do that instead. I like to run meetings the way I run games of Dungeons and Dragons, and it's move with the flow of the group, because if you move with the flow of the group, that's generally moving towards something that more people are enthusiastic about, which means they'll be more enthusiastic to do the things you ask them to do at the end.
Yeah, because if you're trying to give people a productive experience, or as a GM, try to give them a fun experience, you have to find the areas of interest or the areas of importance and like accept that they aren't the same as what you thought they were at the beginning of the meeting. I think there are some personality types where it's like, I have an itinerary, and then you get to point 3 on the itinerary, and it's like, it's clear now that the rest of it is bunk, but you just keep going, and it's like...
You keep going anyway, and it's a waste of time.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
I think if there's things that you can learn about management from playing tabletop role-playing games, it's moving with the flow of the group of people that you're trying to get stuff done. Because enthusiasm trumps anything in terms of getting the best work. Because you can have someone who's really good at what they're doing, but isn't enthusiastic about the project, and then they're not going to produce their best work. But if you get someone who's maybe not as technically skilled as that person, but is much more enthusiastic, you're going to get a higher quality of work from them to a point. Like if you have someone who's like, if we were asking someone who was super enthusiastic about programming and implementing puzzles, but also they didn't know any languages and they were asking us questions every 5 minutes, the work's not going to be as good.
Yeah, it's a balance, I think.
Not to say that the engineers don't ask each other questions every 5 minutes, but they're not what is a for loop. They're what is this weird obscure thing that I'm doing and how does it work?
What is a rect transform?
Well, we know that now.
It's true.
We very much know that now.
It's true. So I think we're a little bit over an hour. Do we want to talk about what is the future ?
Yeah, I think what our kind of end. I think our end goals, a little bit of scoping down, and then maybe a little bit about juice, and then we'll round it off.
I think that's a good idea. I think end goals for us is pretty similar to what we've stated in the past. Like we had a vague idea of what. Like, we always knew, even from when we were in 170, that by 172, we would need a game to exist. So that sort of, like, overarching, like, pushing force is still there. The specifics of what that game is, I think we've already talked about a little bit. Of like, we have the 3 loops with 2 puzzles each for a total of 6 puzzles.
Yeah, and I think that's probably still, at this point, a realistic goal to achieve in the next 8 weeks.
I mean, I'm not so optimistic.
I'm also less optimistic, mainly just because of the logistics involved. I feel like there's a lot of logistical overhead that I think like last quarter that we sort of like missed, and we ended up having like long days where we were like just doing logistics until we were sad.
I guess that's fair.
So
I think,
and from the art asset standpoint, I mean, last quarter we got our assets for 2 puzzles in the whole quarter. At the beginning of the quarter was a lot of art direction conversation, and we're not doing that this quarter, but we are losing time to depression. So
yeah.
yeah.
I think that's a fair point. I think a lot of, like, again, when we talk about scoping down, we want to talk less about cuts and more about what do we say we'll finish after.
Yeah. I think, do you want to say what your thoughts are on how we could scope down, or
yeah,
because I know we both have ideas about it.
So my ideas to scope down would be to cap 172 at 2 game loops for puzzles and reshuffle the narrative so that we can distribute our basically 6 narrative beats throughout 2 loops, and possibly reshift like the visuals. Like, me and Paula are constantly working on environments and how we can have the environment breaking. We can have triggers like between the puzzles to break the environment further instead of between the loops. And I think that is a lot more feasible than trying to complete 2 loops and 4 puzzles this quarter for the art team. And I think that we could still have a complete narrative arc like that. And granted, I don't think it would feel as good from like a puzzle progression standpoint, but you know, like you've been saying, Casey, there's nothing to stop us from coming back in the summer and making that 3rd loop and, you know, implementing our original plan. So that's my personal idea for scoping down.
Yeah. To offer a counter to that, because I'm very much a fan of the idea of let's push beyond that deadline. And then the very difficult thing about coming back in the summer is, I think, when we don't have course deadlines, it's just our deadlines,
and
so it's all down to enthusiasm.
Not everyone would come back to our project. I think that we'd be looking at, you know, maybe 5 people to continue the project. Sounds about right. So it's like, I think that I want us to have a game that feels like we told the story we wanted to tell, and we had some cool puzzles that we wanted people to play and have fun with. You know, if we do that in 4 puzzles, I think we can, as opposed to 6 puzzles. I'm just really worried about the amount of art that we can or cannot get done. And I don't want to put people in a position where... Yeah,
let's continue the circle and let's hear what Casey was gonna say.
Okay, because what I like the most is I think it'll be probably the subject of this week's narrative meeting when we're done kind of critting the drafts, is to go, how do we distribute this among... If we were to only do 2 loops, how do we distribute it? And what can we say to, like, go, let's distribute it, but make it so that if we do come back, the 5 of us the 5 people that I've, like, I think I'd have a general idea of who the 5 would be. So it would be, we'd have most of the people we need to do anything would just take us longer. But would be to go, how do we redistribute it, but also let's not completely ignore... Actually, we might get 6. Let's not completely ignore the possibility of continuing to a 3rd loop when we make that call, and go, is this story beat important enough to reveal in loops 1 and 2? Could it be saved for the 3rd one and not hinder the having a complete narrative in the first 2? Because we can easily move our conclusion up to the end of loop 2 and then go, things in loop 3 will answer questions that are important but not important to the narrative feeling complete. Loop 3 should feel like bonus DLC, not like day one DLC where the rest of the game is locked behind this extra bit. So I think we should... I like the idea of cutting down to 2 and getting a really solid, polished set of 4 puzzles, because I think in terms of showing off work and showing off what we've done, that should be where we're going. But I also think that every decision we make about that should be flavored in, let's look at Loop 3 now as bonus post-release DLC version 2.0 and go, how do we make things in that not feel tacked on, but also make the first two not feel like there's something missing that makes it feel incomplete. And I think I'll go to Michael's office hours and talk to him about this a lot and go, here's how we're scoping down. Here's kind of what the layout is. What is your best advice on making sure that we tell a complete narrative in these two, but if we were to add a third one later, it wouldn't devalue what we've said in the first two.
Yeah.
Because I feel like any decision we make to cut 3 and do the 2, what we should also do is not go back later and like undo some of those changes, like the area breaking between puzzles instead of between loops, to add 3 just because we have the room to do it now. I think any change we make should go, all right, here's what's happening now. How do we reconcile what we want to do in 3, instead of going, all right, so we had the world break so we could use those world breaking assets, break between puzzles. Now that we're adding the third one, we don't have to do that anymore. I think if we make that call, we should say, what's the progression of that beyond into a new loop that we would do post-release.
Yeah, so my ideas for scoping down are different. I don't know, because my idea was not to cut loop 3. My idea was to cut the portion of loop 3 that exists inside of the museum, and then take the assets that are currently being prototyped for loop 3 of all of the cracked sort of like spaces seeping in, move those assets and that general artistic feel to loop 2, and then loop 3 is just you're in space. So it's like loop 3 is just the you're in space puzzle, because the you're in space puzzle doesn't require a lot from the art team. So that's why I was thinking, because the background could be procedural sparkles of space, and then the little the dots are like connect the dots.
What I want to say to that is, if loop 3 is just space, it won't feel like a third independent loop. I think we'll still want to like slap you in the lobby to go in the elevator in loop 3 so you know it's a third game loop. But I think any gameplay that we've put in the third iteration of the museum, we should say, we're not going to do any of that until post, and then kind of funnel you immediately into space.
I think
like you've been seated this elevator and all that, but you're going right into space, and that way I like that too, because I didn't have any personal ideas about scoping down in a realistic way. I hadn't thought about it very much because I knew you guys would think about it and your ideas would be better than mine. So I'm not the ideas guy. I build off of something that already exists. I'd be a terrible concept artist. But that, Alex, with your idea, if we do that, what we then have access to is the museum space in loop 3 exists. It's just unused. Then what we do post-release is, how do we use it?
Yeah.
And then we do something, then we use it.
Yeah, and I think the reason that appeals to me most as the path is that the puzzle that Kelly designed to be the end of the being in space portion of the game feels the most like an ending. So if we want our version at the end of 172 to feel like it has an ending, I feel like that's where we would want that ending to be.
Yeah.
So that's...
now that I've heard your idea, I think I'm more in favor of that one, because it solves the space is asset low.
Yeah.
That is true. It is the background of space, which I think should still parallax scroll even if there's nothing to see in the way, because that would be cool. And Paula's already got it doing that. And just the stars to build those constellations. and then that's everything else we have kind of already exists, and maybe we just need some touching up, and then it would feel more like an end.
I think that I like that idea as well, and I think that the only thing that I would want to do is have one last discussion with our puzzle lead about what are the most important puzzles to happen in loop 2. Like, would we want to keep the pre-existing loop 2 puzzles in loop 2? Do we want to consider moving a loop 3 puzzle up in place of a loop 2 puzzle? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what all the loop 3 puzzles are. But I think that it would be a discussion worth having.
What I want to say from stepping into some of the puzzle meetings is I think they have like a vague idea of what the not space loop 3 puzzle is, and if we go and say, hey, we're gonna cut that, they'll be like, great, because we still don't really know what it is. Like, they know what it is when they tell us, but like that's the only one that's so nebulous that like if we said focus on polishing the other 3 that exist, they would be okay with that.
My main question is about the notes puzzle, I think. Is that the one you're referring to?
That's the one I'm referring to. Is the notes puzzle.
The notes puzzle.
And the notes puzzle would be something.
Yet. It's just a brainstorm at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the notes puzzle being the thing that the remaining 6 of us work on post.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Because I also think that the notes puzzle is a lot of work. It's a lot of like going back and seeding things from the beginning, which we haven't been doing.
Yeah.
So it would be a good place to where we could improve the game by adding it, but we could also save a lot of time by not
from
doing
the game.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, we save a lot of time. All it does it modifies the whole experience, but it doesn't. The whole experience doesn't feel empty without it.
Yeah.
I think is probably the way to go. And I'm trying to think again of if I'm right about the remaining 6, because I think I've heard that people have mentioned continuing to work beyond. I've counted in those 6, and people who are enthusiastic all the time, I've counted in those 6, because it was 5 because it was just the people that mentioned it, and then I remembered enthusiasm, so I added one more person. So I think we'd probably be looking at 6, but I don't want to discuss that here. We can. I could talk about my predictions, not in
the podcast way.
Yeah. But I think all we've got left now is to talk about juice and polish. But I feel like maybe we push that to next time and we do a whole episode on juice and polish, because we're running a little long right now.
Yeah, and I think that's a good idea. I think we'll have a lot more to say about it then too, because
we'll have had 2 weeks of balancing juice and polish with
TAD,
refining what we've got.
TA and our
second Marcelo
all talking about polish. So
yeah, I like that.
Excellent.
So I think all right, I think from the home zone, the quarantine zone, that's where we're going to sign off for today. This has been the Mobius Development Podcast. I'm Casey.
I'm Amanda.
And I'm Alex.
And thank you for listening.